Hola, bienvenidos. El día de hoy estamos aquí con Samson Mow. Samson Mow es el CEO de la empresa Yantri que lleva adopción de Bitcoin en las naciones. Hace poco estuvo aquí en Colombia. El día de hoy estamos aquí hablando con él. Samson, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks, Jen.
Okay, Samson, how was your day?
Pretty good. I just finished a podcast and now I'm doing yours.
Okay, nice. Well, Samson, you come some months ago and talked with the president of Colombia, and we are interested in some things of Bitcoin. And the first question is, why do people in Colombia need buy Bitcoin?
So the answer is everyone needs Bitcoin because the fiat system is unsustainable. It cannot keep on going on as it is in perpetuity. It has to collapse eventually. Either countries will adopt Bitcoin or they'll reissue their currency, like issuing a new peso in Argentina every so many years. So the inevitable place we go to is a Bitcoin standard where everyone is simply transacting with Bitcoin because nobody wants to keep their time and energy in a dysfunctional form of money. Money has to store value, otherwise it loses its function, its core function. And ultimately, people will go to Bitcoin. The question is when. And our hope is that we can get them into Bitcoin sooner rather than later so that there is a smooth transition and they don't fall prey to any scams or any other problems, but they can gradually learn and migrate into Bitcoin.
Okay, nice, Samson. Well, the second question, so we have a list of questions. So, what's the most secure method to save your Bitcoin?
So I think for new people, it would probably be buying a hardware wallet. So there's a lot of good hardware wallets on the market. You can buy Blockstream Jade, Cold Card, Bitbox. There's a lot of great options for you to buy, and they're quite easy to use. Um, for more advanced users that are familiar with Bitcoin, you can probably start to do more things like add a passphrase onto your hardware wallet. Um, and then if you want to go deeper down the rabbit hole and into more complex setups, you can look at something like multisig, but that is relatively advanced, somewhat new. So I would not say start out right off bat with a multisig wallet, but first start with basic hardware wallet and self-custody.
Okay, nice, Samson. That's a recommendation too. So, in Colombia we have our currency that is the Colombian peso, and it's not so much like the US dollar. So, how many Bitcoin is recommendable buy in Colombia for a guy who wins, I don't know, $250 a month?
It really depends on your situation. So I would look at Bitcoin as a savings vehicle. So however much you earn in a month that you plan to save for the long term, you should put it into Bitcoin. The challenge most people have is they put too much into Bitcoin when they're not mentally prepared for it. And they can see some volatility. They might see the price go down and then they panic. But Bitcoin has a very good history of working well on longer time horizons from 5 to 10 years. And if you can sit on that Bitcoin that you buy for 5 to 10 years, it should appreciate over time. And I think the better way to look at Bitcoin is you're not saving it for yourself to buy a fancy car or something like that. It is saving future generations, so your children and your grandchildren. So if you have that longer term mindset, then allocate whatever you feel is comfortable with. Of course, you don't want to put so much in that you can't afford to pay your basic necessities. So it's really up to each individual person and what they're comfortable with and what their needs are at that time.
Okay, nice. Well, Colombia, the people from Colombia have, I know, a lot of questions about if Bitcoin have risk. So, well,
Everything has risk.
interesting.
So
Yeah.
yeah, everything has risk. And I think proper, prudent risk management means constantly reassessing risk. So we talk to some people when we do our work on Bitcoin nation state adoption, and they just dismiss Bitcoin immediately saying it's a high risk asset. But is it really a high risk asset? If you look at a lot of stocks on the stock market, Nvidia or anything, they are also quite volatile. So you can't say Bitcoin is volatile when the traditional stock market is volatile. You can't say Bitcoin is risky in terms of comparison to, say, real estate, because real estate can also have these black swan moments, and real estate holdings are privy to financial crises. We've seen that time and time again throughout history. Other assets can be seized. You've seen also in history that gold can be seized for various reasons. And actually, gold is probably the most seized asset in all of mankind, outside of property. So you have to look at all of these different factors when you calculate risk. You can't just parrot it and repeat what you hear on the news that, oh, Bitcoin's risky, because the news doesn't understand that much either. So you have to make your own assessment, and I would advise people to study history. History is the best teacher. And once you've studied history, do you understand Bitcoin is the future?
Okay, nice answer. So, well, you came to Colombia. What's your opinion of Colombia?
Colombia is a very beautiful country, and I hope I can see more of it. Last time I visited, I was only able to go to the capital, but I've heard great things about the other cities around and also the countryside. So the next trip I make, I hope I can have some more time to see more of the country.
Okay, nice. So, well, you was talking with the president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, about Bitcoin. You think Bitcoin can be the next Bitcoin country?
It's challenging, I think. El Salvador had the benefit of the president being a Bitcoiner before he was the president. So he understands a lot of things that we understand inherently. I'm not sure that President Petro is a Bitcoiner yet, and he's definitely was not in earlier years a Bitcoiner. So you have to kind of go down the journey together and teach what Bitcoin is. And this is the same for a lot of countries. It's a very rare thing that you have a president that's already a Bitcoiner in a country. And that makes it very possible to do bigger things like Bitcoin law, digital securities laws, et cetera, et cetera. But it doesn't mean it's impossible for other countries and other presidents. It just takes a bit more time and a bit more effort.
Okay, nice. Well, we take again the thing with Bitcoin. Well, we know Lightning is layer 2, but we know Liquid is another layer 2, and you have a new wallet of Liquid Bitcoin. Tell me more about Aqua Bitcoin.
Yeah, so Aqua is a new Bitcoin super app that we launched a few weeks ago. It supports Bitcoin, layer 2 Bitcoin, and the Tether USDT. So it's meant to be a wallet that people can use in daily life as their daily driver, as we call it, where you can have a checking account or spending accounts. We label layer 2 Bitcoin as a spending account as well as Tether, but you also have the on-chain wallet, which you can say is your savings account. So you can collect and aggregate transactions in the layer 2 wallet or in Tether and swap to layer 2. And then when you have enough Bitcoin, you can swap it to main chain, to your Bitcoin wallet in Aqua. And this helps people in a number of ways. First is UTXO management, which is becoming more and more of a hot topic, especially with fees going up higher and higher. So there is a concept of where you can have an unspendable UTXO, where the UTXO is too small to even pay the market rate for mining that transaction. So it means you cannot send it out anymore. And people are learning this the hard way, unfortunately, because they've been DCAing or dollar cost averaging over a number of years, and they might have been buying $5, $10 at a time. But if that Bitcoin transaction fee is $5 or $10, then you get this unspendable UTXO. So the benefit of Aqua is you can consolidate in layer 2 through Liquid and Lightning, and then make a transaction to swap it to main chain Bitcoin all at once. So maybe you'll collect a lot of $5, $10 transactions in your layer 2 wallet. And then at the end of the month, you can convert that all to Bitcoin when you reach, I don't know, maybe $500 or $1,000. So it helps people in that sense to use Bitcoin in a smarter way where they don't get stuck. The other aspect is we are one of the first Bitcoin wallets out there that is really pushing stablecoin integrations. So we have native support for Tether on the Liquid network. Liquid is a Bitcoin sidechain, so there's no altcoins involved. you pay the network fees or the transport fees in liquid Bitcoin, and eventually we'll have a feature where you can pay it in Tether. So the goal is that we can have a lot of people in Latin America, Colombia, using Aqua, because Tether is very dominant throughout the global south, especially in Latin America. Everyone uses Tether. It's called digital dollars, right? So they can use Aqua and transact Tether on Liquid, which means they don't need to participate in the altcoin ecosystem. Most people in Latin America simply just want that digital dollar. They don't really care if it's on Tron or Ethereum, right? So they should also not care if it's on Liquid. But it's better it's on Liquid because there's no altcoins involved. But they can still transact in Aqua with Tether on other chains. So we can send and receive to other chains using a swap through SideShift. So you can have your Aqua Wallet, say I want Tether, you can click on the network for Ethereum, and then someone that has Tether on Ethereum can send you Tether. Okay. So it's a way for us to really interact with the entire ecosystem in Latin America. And we've seen people like Bitcoin podcasters and personalities traveling in LATAM, and they report back, Peter McCormack's one of these, they report back that, well, I was in Argentina and everyone wants Tron Tether. And unfortunately, that means he had to use a Tron wallet, right? But with Aqua, you wouldn't have to do that. You would just use Aqua and you can still interface with those people on Tron, but you don't have to keep anything on the Tron network. It's all Bitcoin and Bitcoin technology.
Okay, nice, Samson. So, well, I'm making an investigation. We know this investigation and this question is not relevant, it's not important. But for you, who is Satoshi Nakamoto? You have theories. I have a strange theory. I think you can have a better theory of who is Satoshi Nakamoto.
Yeah, so I get asked that question every so often. My standard answer is it's not a group. It is a single person. And my reasoning for that is the level of cohesion in all of his writings and even his coding. It's very consistent, and there doesn't seem to be any deviation of personalities in his thought process. I don't think it's anyone that is present in the ecosystem. I believe that person, that Satoshi, has gone into hiding or disappeared, and he's not resurfaced and hiding in plain sight and participating in the Bitcoin ecosystem. If he is, it's probably as a non, and he's just very low key. But yeah, he's not someone that's going to conferences and making appearances publicly. And I think third is definitely not Craig Wright.
Okay, nice. Well, you have a better theory. I have a strange theory. I think it's Dorian Nakamoto.
I don't think so. I think that's proven already. I've met Dorian.
Yeah. So, well, I'm gonna make you some rapid questions. Doesn't mean you need a response in 2 seconds. You can take like 1 minute, 30 seconds to answer to the question. No. So, you prefer bits or satoshis?
I prefer bits because it's easier to say 1 million Bitcoin is a million bits. And then satoshis are sat cents or cents. So you have 100 sats to a bit.
Okay. What is the best cold storage in Bitcoin?
There is no best cold storage in Bitcoin. The best cold storage in Bitcoin is a multi-sig made up of a number of different hardware solutions from different vendors, because there is this concept of supply chain risk. So you don't really know for sure if there was some compromise somewhere in the supply chain or in the distribution channel to get that wallet to you. And a multi-sig would alleviate that risk. And also in that multi-sig, some of that hardware should be completely open source and reproducible, because if Bitcoin is for generations down the road, they need to be able to still access the Bitcoin in that multi-sig. And if you're using the hardware from one provider, maybe they shut down and their wallet stops working after 10 years. So I'm really bullish on this Bitcoin signing device called Seed Signer. And this is essentially you achieve the same effect as a hardware wallet, but without any of the complexity. And it's complete open source, reproducible, and anybody could just build one with off-the-shelf parts. So you don't have the risk of losing access in any way, because as long as you have your seed backed up somewhere on a piece of metal, preferably, you'll be able to access the multisig with the seed signer. I'm also a fan of Jade, because Jade, again, is completely open source. You can buy an M5 stack or any of these IoT type devices and flash the Jade firmware onto it and use it. And Jade actually helps you back up your multisig, I guess, call it a structural file that will allow you to receive the funds. Because there's one pitfall of multisig, which is you need to have the identification of the multisig, and that's not part of the multisig itself. And I think other wallets are starting to incorporate that into the multisig and their devices. But yeah, Jade, I think, is one of the leading wallets on the forefront that is doing this. So it makes it more resistant to failure.
Okay, nice. Well, what is your favorite podcast of Bitcoin?
I like them all.
Okay, nice. Well, what is the best thing of Colombia? You come only to the capital, but we have things in the capital.
I didn't have a lot of time in the capital. It was a very rushed trip. So I wouldn't be able to say my favorite thing yet, but I can tell you my least favorite thing was traffic.
Okay. Okay. You think Bitcoin is libertarian or anarcho-capitalist?
I think it is. I mean, it follows it is private money, and it follows a lot of the ethos of libertarianism and anarcho-capitalism. So I would say it is, but those labels can be misused and it can be weaponized against us. So I just talk about Bitcoin as if it was its own thing. And for me, it's good enough that Bitcoin has those properties. It doesn't need to be slammed in people's faces as a libertarian thing. Because, you can see in Argentina when Milei was elected, he was attacked because he was libertarian.
Yeah.
They called him far-right libertarian or some new made-up label. But labels harm us, I believe, and they're easily weaponized. So it's better to just say Bitcoin is Bitcoin. And we know what it is, but we don't need to go and slap people in the face and say, hey, it's a libertarian thing or it's a anarcho-capitalist thing. It doesn't help us.
Okay, that's a very respectful answer. So, what is your opinion of the President Petro? You think it's a nice president? You think Petro listened to the ideas of Bitcoin, understand what is Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think he's a very sharp guy. He understood a lot of the Bitcoin tech stack, I would say, the mining part of it, very quickly off. I think he's still very, very pro blockchain. He talked about some blockchain type projects, which I think we just have to talk to him more and let him understand that you can achieve a lot of the blockchain benefits by using things like open timestamps and using Bitcoin as the anchoring point and hashing and logging things into op returns. So it's just a matter of time, I think. But the challenge is the blockchain narrative is still very prevalent, even though we're in 2024 now. And that's because there are companies that still push that narrative. And it's natural that people don't get it yet, because your first reaction is, oh, there has to be some technology powering Bitcoin, and maybe it's blockchain, but it's actually the inverse. It's Bitcoin powers the blockchain. Right? You don't get an immutable database without immutable money, right? So it's sort of difficult to understand in that sense, and all it takes is time and repetition.
Very nice. Well, what do you think about this news? Said we don't have economy minister. We have we have another name, but it's the same thing. And with the Congress of Colombia are looking to make a regulation of Bitcoin. You think this is a good step for Bitcoin in Colombia?
I believe there is some regulation on the table for cryptocurrency exchanges to give clarity.
Yeah.
And I think it is a good thing because the ambiguity doesn't allow businesses to flourish. So if there is a proper set of regulation, then the exchanges can operate in Colombia. And, you know, it's a mixed bag. You can say, well, it might bring more crypto stuff, but the other part of the equation is it can bring more safety, because people can go on and exchange and it's properly regulated. So unless they're blatantly breaking the law, they should not be able to steal your funds, and it's safer than meeting someone for a peer-to-peer, face-to-face trade that you don't know. So there's pros and cons, but I think the net effect is clarity for businesses so they can operate compliantly.
Okay, nice. Well, another question is, what are your expectations of Bitcoin this 2024 in the world?
I think 2024 is going to see a massive amount of Bitcoin adoption, and it has a lot to do with ETFs and the legitimization of Bitcoin as an asset class. We have already overtaken silver to be the second largest commodity ETF, and gold is sitting there at 96 billion, which Bitcoin can easily reach over the next few months. So we'll see the Bitcoin ETF overtake gold ETFs very shortly. And what that means is we'll start to see more and more people viewing Bitcoin as a reserve asset and piling into Bitcoin. And I think the floodgates have yet to flood. We've seen them open, but the flood is coming when the institutions come, when the pension funds start allocating. We're just going to see the Bitcoin price rise very, very rapidly.
Okay, nice. Well, Samson, the last question is, I believe in you when you say Bitcoin, the value of Bitcoin will be $1 million. What are your arguments? What is the word of Bitcoin will value $1 million?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
What is the argument? What is your base, or what could be your method of think that Bitcoin gonna have the value of $1 million?
Right. So there's a number of factors at play here. There's a limited supply. We're reaching the halving in less than 3 months now, where the supply is going to be cut from 900 a day in half. We're seeing a massive amount of demand from the institutional side with ETFs already. We're seeing BlackRock accumulating an average of $200 million worth of Bitcoin a day, Fidelity $175 million worth of Bitcoin a day, and that roughly equates to 9,000 BTC per trading day when the supply is 900 a day. So you can see there's a mismatch, a massive mismatch somewhere in the 20x, the 10x range, which is going to become 20x post-halving. And the flood of institutional capital has not yet reached. So it's just impossible for Bitcoin to maintain this current price, given the amount of demand there is. And then you have a multiplier where the Bitcoin market cap increases far more than every dollar added. So if you buy $1 worth of Bitcoin, the market cap of Bitcoin doesn't go up by $1. It goes up by a factor of 100 or more, in my estimate.
Okay, well, Samson,
and then you'd have. Oh, okay.
you can end your you want.
Right, and then you have this concept of the Veblen effect, where as the price of a good becomes more valuable, more people want it. So as Bitcoin goes to 100,000 or 500,000, more and more people will want it. They'll see that as that reserve asset, and that will push the price upwards to millions of dollars. And I guess there's many more factors too. You can look at inflation. You can look at debt to GDP. Debt servicing payments are approaching $1 trillion a year in the U.S. All of these factors all tie into at least $1 million per Bitcoin, if not more.
Okay, well, Samson, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me and with the Colombian people. So I will be waiting for you in our country. And well, thank you so much again.
Thank you, Jen.